Meera ma'am, we are live.
Namaskar. Welcome to 8th March 2021 program of Srimati Nathibai Damodar Thakurse Women's University, Press Information Bureau Mumbai and Regional Outreach Bureau Maharashtra and Goa. We from India's first women's university, started by Bharat Ratna Maharshi Tondo Keshav Karve way back in 1916, are happy to connect with all of you on this very special day. Now, when social media has become part of our day-to-day life and Happy Women's Day is being wished with birthdays, Diwali and New Year, let me on behalf of SNDT Women's University wish you all the people from the world and from India and you all who have connected to us right now a very happy and a healthy life, not only for today, but every day. Let all the days be Women's Day. Let all the days be Happy Day. Let all the days be full of joy, peace and harmony, not only for women, but for all the genders. We begin with the university song. I invite Dr. Meena Kutte ma'am to welcome the guest of the today. Dr. Meena Kutte ma'am. She is the Registrar of SNDT Women's University. Dr. Meena Kutte. To welcome the guest of the program today, Dr. Meena Kutte ma'am. Is Meena Kote ma'am connected? Hello. So, on behalf of SNDT Women's University, Press Information Bureau Mumbai, and uh, Regional Outreach Bureau Maharashtra and Goa, I'm very happy to welcome Professor Sashikala Vanjari ma'am. Professor Vanjari is a Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University. As I said, we are the first women's university of India, and I would request Professor Vanjari to give her opening remarks for the program. Ma'am, please.
Thank, thank you, Meera. Hello, everyone. Uh, Respected Professor Veena Punacha, respected Professor Vibhuti Patel, respected Parmendra Singh Gohil, Miss Jyoti Patankar, uh, Mr. Rahul, and my head of the department, who is taken efforts to organize this program, Professor Meera Desai, all the HODs, teachers, and my girls. I would extend warm and inclusive welcome on this occasion of International Women's Day to one and all. I know that I am grateful to Mr. Rahul and PIB and SNDT Women's University head Dr. Meera Desai to organize such a wonderful international webinar on Women's Day, especially in the context of Women's Day. And the topic is gender and work in COVID times. I'm grateful to you, Meera, and at the same time, I would express my gratitude towards Press and Information Bureau and ROB Maharashtra and Goa. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to begin with women empowerment concept, and definitely I would love to speak more, but I think time is very important, so I will go for opening remarks, and then you continue the program. We know that this theme is very relevant to the situation because we are facing since 22nd March 2020 until today we are worried about what will happen to the gender and work. When we think about women empowerment is an important process because women are the focal point of the whole society and family. And if her leadership qualities encourage, then the development of the society and then the nation will happen automatically. Her curiosity needs to be awakened. She needs to create a new kind of hope. Leadership is not limited to men, so we need to make this determination that women can also give. Maternal power must be seen as Mowgli. But looking to the theme, gender and work in COVID times, it is very horrible because we know that, and that's why you have crafted the theme, particularly considering the issue of gender and work. I have gone through one of the papers written by Dr. Anu Madgaonkar and what her findings in relation to this pandemic, and the topic of the research is COVID-19 and gender equality, countering the regressive effect. And what she found, as COVID 19 continues to affect lives and livelihood around the world, We can already see that the pandemic and its economic fallout are having a regressive effect on gender equality. And one reason for this greater effect on women is that the virus is significantly increasing the burden of unpaid care, which is disproportionately carried by women. This, among other factors, means that women employment is dropping faster than average, even counting for the fact that women and men work in different sectors. Now, these are the findings. Regressive effect on gender equality was there, and when we have decided to get assembled and think on the discuss the various issues in relation to gender and work in COVID times, it will definitely help us to change the magnitude of the scenario. It will help to accelerate the process of getting women into the work. And I do understand. I hope, because of the contribution of well-known professors Veena Punacha and Vibhuti Patel and others, I will, or it will help to broaden my insight in the or in regards to gender and work. So I am very much thankful to the speaker and the organizer as well. Mr. Rahul, on behalf of the university and being a vice chancellor, I would express my gratitude towards PIB, because always you are ready, you come forward to have some kind of program in relation or in the context of women empowerment. So I am very much thankful, and I always be with you, maybe in backstage form or whatever, but we need your help. And Professor Meera, you have that insight to organize such a wonderful program. So really, being a VC, I'm thankful to you. I hope you will continue the program in a very nice way, and I am very much hopeful to have its outcome. Thank you very much, and wish you happy International Women's Day. We'll definitely have choose to challenge theme and thought in our mind, and we'll go ahead. There's one quote: reality is conferred by the mind, the great life living concept arise within and become apparent afterwards. We see that India is one, and she is one and shall be one. This thought, with the note of joy and strength, is the duty of every nationalist to hold such kind of things. So make International Women's Day your day. Do what you can to truly make a positive difference for women. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you actually for sparing time, and also Dr. Putul Sathe, who has been a part of this program, actually Department of Extension Education and Research Center for Women's Studies thought that we must kind of talk about women and work, and gender and work rather, and that is how we kind of got the support from PIB, and we have kind of brought this four illustrious people who kind of have been working in the area of women's studies and gender, and also in the kind of we have a speaker from corporate background also to kind of talk about COVID and corporate context. So I'm very happy to kind of have you all here. We start our deliberations with Professor Vibhuti Patel. Professor Vibhuti Patel does not need a kind of a long introduction, because she's a well-known scholar in gender and women's rights. And she's been, she kind of superannuated from SNDT Women's University as a professor of economics, and also from Tata Institute of Social Science Advanced Center for Women's Studies in June 2020. And she has a large body of work to her credit, and has been a very active part of Indian Association for Women's Studies. And we are very happy that she consented to spare time for us, because ma'am is talking at kind of 6 webinars in today one day, and she is a kind of a much sought after scholar as far as women and work is concerned. And I'm really kind of indebted to her, and we are very happy on behalf of SNDT, ma'am, that you could spare time and you could join us. So I would request Professor Patel to kind of take the stage. Thank you, ma'am, for joining.
Yeah. Good afternoon, friends, and thank you for giving me this opportunity and for to speak on women and work. First of all, I would like to greet all by Happy Women's Day. Dr. Professor Shashikala Vinjari, Professor Meera Desai, Dr. Putul Sathe, Dr. Asha Patil, Dr. Rohini Sudhakar. This is the teamwork, such a big program that you have organized. My co-panelist, Professor Veena Punacha, Manavendra Singh Gohili, Dr. Srimati Jyoti Patankar, and the participants in this conference. We all, first of all, I would like to dedicate my lecture to our foremothers who fought for our rights, and whatever rights we are enjoying today, it is mainly because of the collective endeavor which were made by them. It was in 1848 that in Seneca Fall, when women talked about the women's liberation from the clutches of slavery and forced labor and inhuman work condition. In 1910, when the whole world were out to kill each other, and there were jingoism was it was rife with jingoism. They were preparing for the First World War. It was a Clara Zetkin who declared uh, uh, 8th March as a International Women's Day in memory of the women who fought for labor standards, 8 hours of work, then humane condition of work, daycare centers for working mothers' children, and after that we have seen that we have come a long way in last 150 years. And currently also what we are discussing, the agenda which was there in the 1857, where the women in Chicago were fighting against inhuman work condition, the same agenda is there also currently under COVID, uh, corona pandemic imposed so many limitations that have come up. And we all know that the whole experience of women in the workforce and women in the economy is a gendered experience, and it is marked by the intersections of inequalities of caste, class, ethnicity, religion, and gender. And also, we have seen that in 87 countries where the UN did the rapid assessment study, which says that only 3.5% of women are paid under the guaranteed gender parity. Unpaid care work has become a center stage under the pandemic, triggered lockdown, and also artificial wall which is created between the private and the public has now collapsed, because now we are talking about work from home. Those who have internet facilities, they are also working from home. So, intra household power relations during the stay at home and the lockdown orders in the matters concerning care, stress, and domestic violence have figured in great way, and disempowering impact that it's creating. And working from home, along with the housework and along with the child care and elderly care, and also doing without any kind of a support or help that we have seen. Even the public health priorities, in that also we see the gender based discrimination. Women have been the major frontline workers, and gender differential impact also got more accentuated, especially in the context of body distancing, physical distancing, and also what government calls social distancing. We don't use that term, but that also like created a situation where without any kind of a support, women had to their multitasking and the intensity of labor increased. Data from rapid assessment survey from 191 countries collected by the UN Women also show that women are more likely to see increase in both unpaid domestic work as well as the unpaid care work under the coronavirus. In addition, they are also likely that men to that they are in charge of performing three activities like unpaid childcare, unpaid adult care, and unpaid domestic care. And men are doing mostly shopping for the household and also playing with the children. So women handle the vast majority of unpaid work in the home. That means the chores which they have to do, routine chores, childcare, homeschooling, elderly care. That has been established by studies after studies. When it comes to women in the Indian workforce, we see that the participation of women workers in the labor market in India is among the lowest, where we have seen right in the year 2000, 40% of women were in the workforce. Currently, in the recent data, shows that only 17% of women are getting gainful employment. That means they are paid. So, when there is such a huge male unemployment, again the homemaker, that has now been valorized again and again, so much so that earlier women would turn, the poorest of the poor women would turn to MG Narega. But now when they go for a MG Narega job, district authorities tell them that when so many men are unemployed, how can you compete with them? So again we are seeing that the first chance is given to men. So the whole old understanding of the developing capitalism, where for the first time housework, household based production got shifted from factory based production, where the home and factory, they became separated. And the norm that was that the women to be hired last in the phase of economic expansion, when there is a tremendous shortage of male labor, and women to be fired first at the time of crisis. That is what we have been experiencing currently. When it comes to formal sector, where you get protection of labor legislation, you get social security, social protection, the no fear, the Democrats sword hanging on your head that you may lose your job. So this kind of jobs are only 6% of women are entitled to this kind of job. So they are the ones who have a relatively better status, but they are also juggling between housework, childcare, homeschooling, and office work without support of domestic work, because now also most of the societies domestic workers are not allowed to enter. But what we see is that those who are in the informal sector, women headed household, people with disability, senior citizens, lonely elderly, pregnant women, homeless people, socially stigmatized transgender community, sex workers, and women in so many precarious jobs, they are the ones who have suffered the most. And the cash transfer of rupees 5,000 initially in the Jan Dhan account, and now I think government has promised under Atmanirbhar 2,500. It is not able to, like, there are so much of paperwork is required. People are making trips after trips to the bank. Now, coming to the large majority of women in the workforce, who are like 92% of women in the workforce are in the informal sector. If we go by the ILO data, like 32% of them are own account worker. That means they are running a small tea shop, or they are supplying food packets, or they are doing door to door selling. They may have a small little shop to sell vegetables, or vendor's job. They are 32%. So one third of the workforce is in it is called own account worker. Others are informal employees working in a tiny sector or medium sector or small sector, small scale sector, or a micro sectors, where they are 30%. And you have 18% of the workforce which is contributing to the unpaid family work. So in the agriculture, or in a craft based economy, or in a fisheries, or in a forest, this thing, they are contributing to the to accentuate the resources, but they are not counted as workers. So these are the ones who have faced major problem under pandemic. So they are into part-time job or a contract job. They are unregistered. They don't have a status of a worker. Many of them are doing home-based work, and there is a tremendous underestimation of their work. Then we see that another very important issue that comes is that of women as a frontline workers, frontline health workers. There are 9 lakh public health workers in our country, registered public health workers. We have a 10.3 lakh ASHA workers. They are called accredited social health activists, who have done a tremendous job under 11 months of pandemic, where right from working, doing the corona testing, to doing door to door health checkup, or helping the woman in labor to deliver a baby, all that work they have done. 27 lakh workers are Anganwadi workers. They have also been the heroine, and they are the heroine, and they are the frontline workers. Government school teachers who are distributing PDS ration door to door. So they count for 70% of frontline health workers. None of them have PPE kit. They are managing with their own homemade mask. So there are nurses, Ayabai, sanitary workers, Anganwadi workers, Anganwadi workers, and most of them are not even treated as well. Anganwadi workers and asha workers, they are called volunteers. Even when they are volunteers, they are not given the status of worker, and that's why they are not entitled to even minimum wages of the state. And currently today they have made a big demonstration, and they have also given a later memorandum to the government to for regularization of asha workers and anganwadi workers. Now, coming to the question of migration, the whole discourse on migration is only around male migration. Even in, if you go through the statistics of 2011 census, they, when it comes to reasons for migration, when it comes to men, they say migrated due to work or migrated for education. Migrate. When it comes to women, they would say only whole family migrated or migration after marriage. 85% of women are supposed to have migrated because of marriage. But even after marriage, they don't stop working. Earlier, they may be working in a field. Now they are working in a factory. But women, the women are also migrating for work. That kind of a image is not created, and that's why we see that even when we have an interstate migration workmen's act 1979, we saw that during the crisis, this was the act which was mostly violated. There was no non-implementation of this act. Within 1 month of lockdown, the workers were indebted. They had completed all their savings which they had. They borrowed from neighbors, they borrowed from money lenders, and they were completely on road. They were driven out of their homes, and we saw that this whole facade of India making a great progress in terms of double-digit growth or aiming to have a 5 trillion economy got shattered when we saw nearly 12 crore Indian migrants just walking from major cities to their native place because there was nothing left for them. And that was captured by social media, and so many citizens also took the pictures and videos, and among them there were 3 crore were women. So I think migrant women and is very important to understand that there are 45.36 crore, like nearly 45 crore of are Indian internal migrants, and there are 3 crore of them are women migrants. So when we come up, our Labor Ministry has currently talked about 4 major studies on migration. In that also we need to see to it that women's concerns as migrant, because 85%, so many studies done by Seva Bharat or Indian Social Institutes Trust, ISST Delhi, rapid assessment studies by Swan Report, all of them have shown that this migrant women's concerns have not been taken into consideration. So many industries where they were Jodi system, like a sugarcane industry, where they have a Jodi system, construction industry has a Jodi system. Only a male worker is treated as a worker. The woman worker gets invisibilized. So it is not only that they lose out in terms of in terms of wages, they never get equal wages. The moment any work which is done, yesterday there was a leader from the construction industry, and they said that men and women are doing the same work in construction industries, but always in the muster you would find women being classified under underskilled and men will be classified as a semi-skilled or skilled, and the wages would be one third to of male wages. So this kind of biases we see in a big way, and we have seen that during the migration crisis, it was the civil society organizations, trade unions, SHGs, people's NGOs, they stood by these people for at least basic necessities, but the kind of pain that they had to undergo was extremely history. We can never forget. We have never seen this kind of exodus of human beings. And the migrant workers, even those who managed to have some shelter in camps which were created for the migrant workers, there also we saw them not sitting idle. All of them were cooking, all of them were cleaning, all of them were looking after the ill, those who fell ill. They were being looked after. Now, in government of India has come up under recently the like 4 labor codes which are going to replace 48 labor laws which were created over last 150 years, right from 1836 Industrial Dispute Act in 19, where the railway workers had gone on strike against the uh, only white workers giving accident compensation, and the Indian workers who were called coolie were not given compensation. So right from that time till now, we have had 48 central legislations and 200 state specific legislations. Now all these legislations are replaced by 4 labor codes. Now throughout, if you read all these 4 labor codes which are going to be implemented from 1st of April, there is no mention of women. Everything is about he, him, and his. The language of the code is also invisibilizing women's contribution to the economy. Women workers don't exist for this code. Only once, when there is a talk of maternity benefits, there is a mention of this thing. Even when they are talking about occupational health and safety, there also safety at workplace in terms of sexual harassment free workplace, that is also not mentioned. And that's why currently, if we see that so many the Indian trade unions, central trade unions, and women's organizations have approached international labor organization. ILO's directors spoke to labor minister of our country, and they said that India was committed to a decent work concept of ILO, and 2019 the covenant on a violence free workplace, that was also India had accepted. And with this labor code, were they going to break the promises which they had given to the International Labour Organization? But the Labour Minister has given assurance that no such thing would not happen. But if we see the gender implications of these four labour codes as in the context of continuously declining work participation of women from all sectors of the economy, and whether you go by the ILO's understanding or if you go by the McKinsey report, which also says that the four major reasons for declining work participation. One is childcare, because we don't have a state supported childcare facilities or creche. So after marriage, even 40% of women with MBA degree also give up the job because they have the other person is that our population pyramid has now become top heavy. There are more senior citizens, less the proportion of children and the young people is as compared to the senior citizens is declining, because we have 18 states in India which are below stabilization. Couples are replaced by less than two children. So there are and life expectancy has gone up. So there are families where you have a four generations of people. So you are not only the young couple is not only looking after their parents and parent-in-laws, they are also looking after grandparents and grandparent-in-laws. So the question of elderly care has also become extremely important for the responsibilities on family. Third question is that massive India is moving towards Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is a massive induction of artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning. Industry 3.0 was IT revolution. Industry 2.0 was a mass scale production, the Fordism, and Industry 1.0 was when the steam engine was invented and the industrial revolution in England took place. So in Industry 4.0, where the platform-based economy, artificial intelligence is going to have a massive replacement of labor, with the axe has fallen on women's labor. And that's what last 4 years of data is showing, that even where the new jobs came up, men were inducted into that because they are skill ready. We have a four important programs of government of India: Skill India, Startup India, Stand Up India, and Make in India. In that also we see that women have got level playing field. In fact, SNDT is working with in a Disha project. 15,000 girls have been trained over last 5 years by UNDP's program Disha, but they find it very difficult to get absorbed in the this thing. Here comes the fourth reason is the safety. So mobility of women becomes a major problem because the safety after Nirbhaya tragedy, parents and in-laws are disinclined to send women and girls to a workplace which is far away. If you have to change two buses and one train, and that kind of a situation where people are avoiding, and these are the four reasons which are mostly important. And here we see that global community is critiquing Indian state, mainly because at one level UGC is boasting about more and more women, lakhs and lakhs of women joining the university system. But still we have a 25% of girls who finish their schooling 12th standard, they enter the university. So we have many degree holders in various streams. Maybe STEM stream it is less: science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. But these degree holders also are not the degrees, and the educational qualification doesn't translate into job. So the implications of this kind of a global labor law, which are so women unfriendly and gender blind, they will also enhance gender pay gap. They will not protect women from sexual harassment at workplace. Recently, we saw that in a garment industry in Bangalore, where women made complaint, but now the 12 states have also given up all the labor laws, so there is no grievance redressal mechanism. Erosion of labor standards which are evolved by ILO, occupational health and safety. That is also doesn't take into consideration gender concerns, how what kind of safety measures you will give to a pregnant woman, or how many breaks you will give women to go to the loo. Will factories have all types of facilities for women? Hire and fire policy are mostly employer favored. No grievance redressal mechanism, and invisibilization of women work in the discourse on work, that itself is the most dangerous. And it is in this context that gender economists are demanding visibility of gender disaggregated data with clear cut concepts without operational biases or conceptual biases. So that is very important. When it comes to agrarian sector, again we have this organization Mahila Kisan Mazdoor Sangatna, very active in 18 states, and they have also shown that how these three farm laws are going to harm the interest of women farmers. Generally, women farmers have a, you know, that overall land holding in India for women, like the land titles in the name of women farmers are only 12%, and operational holding is only 8%. So it is in this context we are seeing, and their land ownership is also of a half an acre, 1 acre, at the most 2 to 5 acres. So women are basically marginal farmers, poor peasants, and large majority of them are agricultural laborers. So they are also, now they have got united. They are very active, and they are vociferous, and they are also demanding a status of farmer. Women are not farmer's wife, farmer's daughter, farmer's sister, farmer's mother, or farmer's widow. Okay, they are farmers. At one level, FAO is saying that future of food security and food sovereignty is in the hands of women. Currently, also studies after studies are showing that men are there at the time of sowing and harvesting. Throughout the year, consistently, it is women who work, but still they don't have farm status as a farmer, and they are deprived of all the schemes. Once you don't have Kisan card, you are deprived of subsidized electricity, subsidized water, subsidized education, subsidized fertilizer. So women have come, they are expressing their concern. When it comes to forest economy, 11% of women workers are in the tribal area. They are the tribal communities, and they collect 200 types of forest produce, which contributes to 20,000 crore to the Indian economy. And they have also suffered the most under the lockdown, because whatever collections they had made last March, because of the lockdown, they could not sell, and there was a complete resource lessness and the tremendous hunger, and which UNICEF invited the attention, the hunger in the tribal region. And currently there are several tribal organizations which have asked for a removal of GST for this particular year. So now the response of the corporate world when it comes to the unpaid care work, except for two corporate houses, Tata Steel and Swiggy, none of the Fortune 500 companies declared that any special leave, fully paid special leave for women who were looking after the ill people, no, and they were under quarantine. So we have seen and these are the companies who have made massive profit. Many of them have become billionaire, but they have not given that kind of social security or social protection to women workers. In fact, most of the women lost their job. Ashwini Deshpande's study also shows that most of those who suffered during the lockdown also happened to be the OBC, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, minorities, and women. Like 40% of women have lost their job under lockdown, and there are no chances for them to get job immediately because of the high male unemployment. The most important study which has come up this year is that of a time use study, paid and unpaid work of women and men, which was released just 3 months back by government of Ministry of Statistics. That also is very important. There are limitations because it is only based on the recall method, that in last 24 hours what all work you did, and those 24 hours were divided into personal work, care work, and paid work. But still it gives an idea the massive discrepancy that we have in terms of paid work. And so the relationship between unpaid work and paid work is extremely important, because the unpaid work exhausts large majority of women. It has its repercussion even on the paid work with them, because anytime there is a demand for care, women are the ones who have to pull out of the paid work. So it is in this context that the new demand that has emerged on this March 8 by the feminist economists and the women's rights movement is that we need to redistribute care work. Means it is not only a women's job, everybody's job. So sharing, we have to change the gender norm where the housework and care work is everybody's responsibility, boy and girl, man and women, everyone in the society. We need to recognize that the care work is extremely important. Without that, the mainstream economy cannot function. Care work is cooking, cleaning, carrying, collection of fuel, fodder, water, animal care, kitchen gardening that is happening in the forest economy, in the rural economy is very important. So recognition of care work and also reduction of care work, which is the care work which is very drudgery prone, monotonous, dead end job, unsafe job like a sanitation worker's job. We should also reduce care work by introduction of appropriate technology. And we need to address these questions of women workers at a macro policy level, whether they are women in fisheries, they have also suffered the most, women in handloom industry, in the agricultural sector, in the rural area. Handloom is a sector is one of the largest employers after agricultural employment. Cottage industries and handloom, they are also on a decline, and we need the state support. And feminization of poverty, which has been happening even in the pre-COVID period, that has also got accentuated. And it is in this context that we are demanding, and we say that the economy is not closed. Everyone is cooking, cleaning, taking care of the loved ones, and they are not. It is not just valued. So every woman is working. Okay, so that is very important, and the state has to accept this, and that's why it has to come up with the affirmative action. Incomes support is extremely important currently in the context of indebtedness and complete the massive unemployment that is there. Urban housing for the migrant workers has now become a top priority. State has to take initiative. The private sector will not do. The private sector will immediately throw them out the moment you are unable to pay rent. So low rent urban housing rights, that is very important. And now in the smart city discourse, let us not be obsessed about CCTV cameras and the technology and flyovers and and the car parking areas. But what we need is a low cost housing, and the housing for the migrant workers, because majority of the cities in our country have between 45 to 60% of the workforce which is a migrant workforce. And for the first time now we are accepting that if the migrant workers are not there, the economy will collapse. Their labor is very important. They are the city makers. Now, talking in the context of future of work, where the platform based work, temping, automation in manufacturing sector, artificial intelligence and service sector, they are now they have entered the Indian economy in a big way. We saw even in the agrarian sector, under the lockdown, massive sale of tractors happened. So automobile industry is in down. Four wheelers, cars, and are not being sold, but at least tractors are getting sold in a big way, and the massive production of tractors has also started, like by Kirloskar and Mahindra, mainly because they are replacing human beings by technology by this. So, and there also, even in the agrarian sector also, this industry 4.0 is entering. So we must demand in all the skill mission, whether it is a skill India, stand up India, startup India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Garib Kalyan Yojana, which has 21 25 schemes, urban employment scheme, in that 30% quota must be kept for women. Except for Kerala, no other state government has promised that in the unlock period, in the rebuilding of the economy after COVID-19 lockdown, or a collapse of the economy, we are going to integrate women and gender concerns in the economy. And I think that promise we need from the state and from all the government and all ministries and departments. So it is very important. Labor helpline needs to be created, and this helpline must go beyond relief measures and provide reliable information on all new policy announcement. Every week new policies are coming regarding labor. It should also address the wage denial, layoffs, termination, workplace discrimination, police brutality, and sudden forceful eviction. So wage and cash transfer is where wages and the cash transfer is very important. Direct cash support and also the labor laws which safeguard the interest of the workers must be retained. And I think that is the consensus, common demand of all those who are working with the working class. In MG Narega, the most of the states have finished their this year's budget also because of the reverse migration, and now we have a circular migration. So there also we need to have gender integration. The massive flagship programs of Government of India, Housing for All, boost of rural economy, support to agriculture, fertilizer subsidy, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and in that also we need gender mainstreaming and overall budgetary allocation in terms of COVID response, which India has only 7%, WHO has asked for 10%, and so many of our neighboring countries have had more proportion of GDP in response to COVID-19. So we also demand more budgetary allocation for the working class and for women in the workforce. And I think that is very important to raise and visibilize women workers' concerns and also see to it that they get level playing field in the fast changing post COVID unlock period. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vibhuti ma'am. And thank you so much for giving that perspective of the whole in terms of the across sectors and across time. And we are extremely thankful to you for having spared time because I know that you have another speaking commitment at 4 o'clock. So if it's and we would not be like, I understand that you're running against time, but thank you for sparing time. And
thank you, madam, for the opportunity and for adjusting.
No. Thank you for
Such
coming.
an important subject.
Thank you so much. I am happy to kind of have another speaker for a session now, and he comes from royal family of Rajpipla in Gujarat, and he's been a transgender activist who is running a charity called Lakshya Trust, and they work with LGBTQ community since the year 2000. And I'm sure that you can Google around Shri Manvendra Singh Gohilji because he's kind of a most spoken about person who has actively taken upon himself to talk about issues related to gay community and transgender people. And we are very happy to kind of connect, and we are very happy that you agreed to speak at this session because as a women's university and as being a part of our university, we're very happy that you can share your own insights about COVID and work and your own context of how you see it shaping up for the future. So over to you, Manvendra ji. Thank you for joining us.
Hello everyone. Thanks, Professor Desai, for giving my introduction. And I would like to wish everyone here a very happy International Women's Day to all of you, especially Professor Shashikala. I would like to thank her for her opening remarks. And I was very happy to hear Professor Vibhuti Patel give her comments and her remarks on today's occasion. And very soon we'll be joined in by Professor Veena and also Ms. Jyoti Patankar. So I'm looking forward to listening to them. When I'm saying about gender, and as Professor Desai very correctly mentioned me as LGBTQ rights activist and a transgender activist, I have been given this opportunity by SNDT University in the previous period also to come and talk to the students, and I'm very happy that this university has taken this initiative because when we talk about gender, then not many of us think about the transgenders, and which is a very important and integral part of our society. I mean, for those of you who don't know, but the transgenders have played a very important role in the freedom struggle of India. And if I tell you historically, then the transgender community has actually been part of the army of the last Mughal emperor, that is Bahadur Shah Zafar, and they have fought against the Britishers when the 1857 mutiny had happened. And that's the reason the Britishers, they felt threatened, and they actually criminalized. The transgender, the population was actually criminalized. They were recognized as a criminal tribe in those days because they felt threatened that the transgender community will become so powerful that one day they will be throwing the Britishers out of the country. So that has been their contribution. And unfortunately, we remember the transgender community for the wrong things. It's duty of people like me to educate and bring the awareness to the society that we should remember the contribution made by them, and also because I always said that India is a country of paradox. I mean, we call the transgenders with us, and when I talk about the transgenders, specifically the Hijra population, we invite them to our homes whenever there is a newly born baby boy, or there is a wedding ceremony. We invite them to bless the couple, or to bless the newborn baby. But at the same time, we are subjecting them to so much of stigma and discrimination. We ridicule them in the public, and their human rights are being violated for no rhyme or reason. So these kind of things are posing on them so many threats. And now, especially when in today's topic, with reference to today's topic, if I'm talking about the COVID time, for which we have collected here. So we can imagine. I mean, as it to the job opportunities given to transgenders are not there as such. It's nil, practically nil. On top of that, even those who have been employed, those who tried to live a life of dignity in this period, were forced to give a job, or even like go in for prostitution, or do any of that kind of thing which they were not wanting to do. And because of this situation, this pandemic which had arisen, which has so many people lost their jobs, their unemployment was there, so much of problems were faced, even people didn't have food to eat. But let me give you also an instance. I mean, I am working in the city of Vadodara for the transgender population, and we have been funded by the government of Gujarat for almost 20 years. We've been funded by them especially for the HIV/AIDS prevention program with them, and also for the HIV testing and treatment. And now currently we are also doing a project for the social entitlements of the transgender. Now, even during the period, I'm very proud that the transgender population of Vadodara went out of the way and have helped the slum dwellers of Vadodara, the poor people who have been living below the poverty line. They have provided them ration kits, medical aid, masks, the sanitizers, all those things which are needed, to the poor people in the slums. So that doesn't get missed. It's very unfortunate, that when they are trying to help the society, that doesn't get noticed, and they are always labeled as something evil, and there's always this wrong perception which the people carry amongst with them. So these are the things which need to be brought in the forefront, that we need to realize the importance, the good things about them. I always I work closely with the government, and I'm very happy to also say that India was one of the few countries in the world which recognized the rights of the transgenders. And I'm going back to 2014, when there was a judgment made by the Honorable Supreme Court, which was called the Nalsa judgment. It was a Nalsa judgment versus the Union of India was the case. And it was a landmark judgment where the Honorable Supreme Court for the first time recognized the rights of the transgenders. And it has not happened in many other countries. I mean, to just talk about my own example, I mean, I was traveling to US on the same day when this judgment was announced. And when the moment I landed at the New York airport, I was surrounded by American journalists, and they were surprised. They told me that, how did your country even recognize the transgender rights when America is still struggling for them? I said, well, I come from India. I'm proud to be Indian, and we are proud of the rich and cultural heritage of India. And I have faith in the Indian judicial system, that they definitely consider the human rights of our citizens, And thanks to our Indian constitution, that which has given rights to equality to all citizens, the transgenders have also been part of our Indian culture, and therefore it was very important for them to give them rights. So the Nalsa judgment was a real landmark judgment for India, where for the first time they recognized that the existence of transgenders. Whereas, I know in 2011, I think, when the population survey of India or the census was done, the transgender was not taken into account in the population. So now that they have been recognized, now they would be part of the population of India, which is very important, because you need to know the real population of India. You cannot have a population where you are not counting the transgenders in the population. So that's a good thing which happened. Subsequently, after the Nalsa judgment, the transgender bill was passed in both the houses of Parliament, Rajya Sabha initially, and then the Lok Sabha. And now, at least the transgenders have some rights. And I'm very closely working with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, both at the central level and at the state level. And I'm very happy to announce that both the center and the state have been very favorable towards the implementation of the Nalsa judgment and the transgender bill at the national level. And even during the COVID period, since we were not able to be present physically, like how today also. In fact, I was looking forward to be in the university, SNDT University, but then I said, no, it's not possible. You had to do it on the virtual platform. Similarly, I wasn't able to meet the ministry, and the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. They had a virtual meet organized, a Zoom meeting organized, where they invited me and invited several other transgender activists during the pandemic period to understand what are the needs of the transgender community, what is that the government can do to support us and help us in providing them the medical aid or any other support which we need. So that happened during the pandemic period. So that was very good that the ministry took this initiative on the state level. I would also like to tell another thing which happened during the pandemic, since we are talking about the pandemic in today's topic. I don't think many people know this, but India created a history. And when I say India created a history, I would like to mention this, that as I have said, I am very proud of the Indian government towards the step towards they're taken to the transgender community. The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, under the leadership of the Union Minister, Mr. Thawarchand Gehlot, he, for the first time in the history of India and many other countries, he inaugurated a transgender shelter home, which is the first transgender shelter home ever in India, as well as for many other countries. And that was done in the city of Vadodara. And they supported my organization, Lakshya Trust. Lakshya happens to be the first organization in India to have a transgender shelter home, which is soon going to be taking place. And of course, they announced that there are going to be many more coming in India, and all the states, almost all the states of India will have one transgender shelter home. And now it's very important to know what this transgender shelter home is going to do. And it's not just going to provide accommodation and food and support, but it's also going to build the capacities of the transgenders, so that they are aimed at being providing self-employment. So they are financially on their own, so that job opportunities, whenever they arise, they could be given that job opportunity, so that the transgenders are given the freedom to live the life of dignity and respect. So that is something which is commendable, I would say, on the part of the government, to have thought about this community during the pandemic period, when as I mentioned, the community has been struggling to have even to make their ends meet, and they have not been able to. Some of them have been not getting proper medical aid and food and ration and many things. Even the transgender activists, I would like to name one of them, that is Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. She's one of the leading the transgender activist in India, and with her help also we managed to get this shelter home sanctioned in the city of Vadodara. She had also has during the COVID period had distributed lot of ration kits and medical aid to various states in India, including Gujarat. She is actually my Rakhi sister also. So she has been very kind, and she has been very generous in giving a lot of aid to the not just the transgender community, but even to a lot of people who were in need during that time, during the pandemic. Because as we all will agree that this was a very challenging time for us. We were not prepared. I mean, for all of us, like, it was something which we were forced to accept and start this new normal lifestyle. We were forced to adapt to that. We were not ready to do that. It suddenly came as a lockdown was declared on 22nd of March, and then a lot of us were not even prepared. So thanks to people like them and the government support, and in some other support which we got from the local donors and all, we managed to sustain this community in spite of the fact of all the shortfalls and all were there. But there is definitely a lot needs to be done for the transgender community when it comes to implementation of these laws. Even though, as I mentioned, that there is a NALSA judgment now, there is a transgender bill which has been passed in the parliament. Even the states are trying to have transgender welfare boards. Like even state of Gujarat has made that announcement, and very soon they're going to start this transgender welfare board, which is going to comprise of the representatives from the transgender community and the government to see how the bill can be practically implemented. For example, right to education, right to health, right to social entitlements. Many things would be considered in that. But what happens is that because of the lack of education and awareness amongst the general society, the community has been put to a lot of torment and torture on a day-to-day basis. One of the important things which I would like to point out in today's conversation is that talking about sexual abuse and rape. It's very interesting that the punishment which is imposed to a rapist for a woman is different than one which is imposed for a transgender. So that, I think, needs to change, because after all, I mean, both are victims. Why should there be a discrimination between a woman and a trans woman or a transgender person? That will discourage the criminals from behaving in this sexual abuse manner. On the contrary, when I had meetings with the government, I always tell them, I said, recognize the capacities and capabilities of the transgender community. If Bahadur Shah Zafar had that vision and he could employ the transgenders in his army to fight the Britishers. Even I belong to a royal family, and I belong to a very old dynasty which is 650 years old. We have evidence that transgenders were used as our royal guards to guard the royal courts. So why can't we employ the transgenders and in positions like these? For example, in talking about Mumbai, since I am raised in Mumbai, I always say that there are ladies compartment in the local trains. Have one transgender in the ladies compartment. I can challenge if any woman will be touched by a man. That's my challenge. I mean, if a transgender can be employed as a guard in the ladies, just one transgender is enough per ladies coach, ladies compartment. I dare if any man can enter that ladies compartment, even touch a woman. So see, these are the things which we as a society we should understand and educate and spread this awareness. So I don't wish to take much time, because we have to listen to other speakers as well. So, as a concluding remark, I would just like to mention one thing, that we do not need sympathy. We do not need sympathy from the society. What we need is empathy. So my message to everyone who's listening to me today is, try to understand our issues, try and come in our place and see what what we are facing, what kind of struggles we are facing, what kind of traumas we are facing in our life, what kind of human rights are getting violated. We are subject to getting violated on a day-to-day basis. Try and understand that, and then make your judgment on us. But as I mentioned earlier, on the occasion of International Women's Day, I would once again appeal to everyone that we are strong. We are, you need not judge our strength. We are strong. What we need to do is change the world's perception about us, and they should realize that our strength is there, and we are there for the humanity and for the welfare of all the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was wonderful hearing you. And you rightly said, and I also kind of wish that all of us start looking at Happy Humans Day actually, and treat all human beings with the same dignity and same respect. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing time. It's my pleasure to welcome Jyoti Patankar. And we kind of, as I said, we tried to kind of bring in different perspectives in terms of work. And so Jyoti represents Tata Consumer Products Limited. Jyoti is a marketing professional with a experience in FMCG marketing sector, and she has managed Tata Salt, and I'm sure all of us remember Desh Ka Namak as a campaign, which was a kind of iconic. And she's now kind of launching a Tata Sampann, a food brand of Tata. She's currently leading the spices and RTC category of Tata Consumer Products Limited. What I found very interesting, and thank you for that, Jyoti, is that she's a mother of twin boys, and she lives in Mumbai with her business man husband and in-laws. So she's part of a great Indian joint family, which I am also. And thank you for agreeing to kind of share your insights about COVID and work, and I'm sure we'll kind of benefit from your insights. So over to you, Jyoti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meera, and also to my previous panelist, Manavendra Singh ji. You mentioned about perception, and that's such a powerful thing, and I will also be talking about that as I progress in my talk. Namaskar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Shashikala Vanzara, the professors of SNDT University, all my fellow panelists, especially dear students of SNDT, and everyone who's watching this. A very good afternoon. And
can you be a little louder? Your sound is very low.
Oh, okay. Is this better, Dr. Meera?
Yes.
So, a very good afternoon and my best wishes on the occasion of International Women's Day to all of you. When I spoke to Dr. Meera about this event a couple of days back, it got me thinking. You know, here there are so many learned scholars, and so I decided to do a little bit of research on myself by myself, and I did some primary research. And interestingly, I spoke to a few of my male colleagues to understand their experiences during the pandemic. Mind you, these were largely people from corporate background, and to that effect, the sample is not representative of entire pop strata, but talks about the challenges with corporate my peers men faced. And here is what my research said. So I asked them, what are your top concerns and what were your top concerns during the COVID-19 pandemic time? So the top answers were safety of the family and ensuring supplies. Next, I asked them, was there any change in the schedule, your daily schedule during the pandemic? And they said the top answers were yes, on account of the work hours increasing. Yes, while the time of commute changed, it was plowed back into work. So the managing schedule was, we also had to pitch in a little bit at home work because there was no maid, and you have to help the wife or the mother. Then I asked them, what were the main challenges that you faced during this pandemic? And this was also around safety related challenges, sanitizing everything, ensuring kids are safe, parents are safe, spouses safe. More demand at work, concerns of job security, because a lot of job losses were happening during that time. So to ensure that the financial stability is there, uh, as one thinks about it, to my mind, these really point to a current or perhaps not so current societal context. Safety, providing for family, breadwinning, it's considered a man's area. And while I have not asked or not done the research with women, we all know, and a lot of speakers before me spoke about it, that caregiving was the largest chunk of women that a lot of women, including the corporate women, did during this time. Uh, Now, if you ask me, is there something wrong with it? That the priorities are these, and women, the caregiving area is for women. Well, if there are no alternatives to accommodate the change of responsibilities or the desires to change role, so the women do want to go out, or sometimes have to go out and do the breadwinning, or sometimes men want to do the caregiving. If there is no alternate infrastructure to accommodate this, that's what is happening, and that's where we are seeing this challenges, so to speak, coming in. So we all know there is an imbalance, and in some cases massive imbalance. As per a very recent study conducted by McKinsey in July 2020, women accounted for almost 75% of world's unpaid caregiving work during the pandemic. The numbers are almost up to as high as 90% for the Asian countries. The representation of women in workforce is also in certain specific sectors which have been severely impacted by COVID, which Professor Vibhuti also spoke about in her talk, like accommodation, food services, education, financial and institutional activities, so on and so forth. So, A, the threat of job losses was higher. B, the responsibility of unpaid care work was higher, and the sector is also getting impacted. So, this we have all read enough to know that this is happening. There is also an aspect of increased violence and abuse against women during pandemic. Women with the support systems not accessible became, and we've all read about it, have become the handy punching bags on which aggression could be let out. And there has been an increase manifold in the numbers of cases against women around during this time. Now, even before COVID, these disparities in these areas have been stark and the progress has been slow. But now, COVID has been threatening to undo the work which has happened over past so many years. What we've observed is that the burden which is being faced by women of the pandemic is actually going to undo the efforts of past many, many years. In the same report of McKinsey, which I have quoted above, they actually modeled the impact of COVID on gender equality, depending on whether or not we take any actions. So there were actually three scenarios. We don't do anything about this and continue the situation the way it is. And there was one scenario where we do a little something about it and we take active actions about it. And here is the difference in impact. We are looking at a potential loss of almost 1 trillion USD in coming 10 years if we do nothing. And this is the impact on the global GDP, 1 trillion USD impact, negative impact by 2030. Alternatively, if we do take actions, we could add a whopping 13 trillion to the global economy in the same period of time. Uh, Without actually going much into the numbers, the actions which will help bridge this gap and disparity on all accounts will have a far more lasting effect. And I don't think there is actually any debate about it. uh, we have actually heard a lot about the issues and what the data tells us across about the impact of various sectors, pop stratas, education groups of women around it. What is it that can be done about it? uh, if you actually take a step back, I think the actions that we need to take fall in two large buckets. The first one, and which has been the primary, topic of discussion during this pandemic work, has been addressing the unpaid caregiving work. The importance of reducing gender imbalance in the responsibility for care cannot be overstated. There are interventions required to tackle this problem. which can possibly include better recognition for unpaid work, reducing the amount of unpaid work, in certain way rebalancing it between men and women. I think it also requires an overhaul in the overall approach of policy that we are taking about this issue, starting from infrastructure to facilities. There are actually, if you look at the reality of it, there are actually not many options available today, and even if they are limited to a certain section of society which can afford it. There are not many government funded options to actually address the caregiving issue for women. Adequate support systems and even possibly taxation incentives to such institutions can be one area. But that's about the policy at the government level, what they can do, and there are a lot of scholars which are touching about it and will touch about it. The question that I was asking when I actually got this invitation from Dr. Meera was that what can each one of us do, policy and social discourse, these are big things. What can each one of us actually do about it? And this is the second area, I think, which lies at the heart of all gender related issues. That's what Manavendra Singh ji also touched about. It was about perceptional, it was about perceptions, it's about this addressing gender stereotypes and attitudinal bias. And I think this is where the maximum work still remains to be done, and it is so pervasive across income groups. uh, and I think this is something that we have been observing for many, many centuries now in our country, and somehow seems to have gotten a little more sticky in recent years. Any drive, to my mind, towards gender parity arguably starts with the efforts to change the entrenched, widespread attitude about women's role in society. I understand that this is an extremely difficult and a complex challenge that will require all stakeholders to play a sustained part over a long period of time, and it will not be easy. Governments and the businesses, it's time that they consider active initiatives, and I don't think the onus is going to lie in governments alone. It cannot lie on government alone. It has to be a public private partnership. How to safeguard girls education, tackle violence against women, and protect maternal health, to name a few important issues. I think work is required in all these areas. um, and I think it is in this area where galvanizing masses is critical. uh, when you talk about violence against women, when you talk about women's health, one may think what can one do at an individual level, but I think this is where the change in every single household will be required. Violence against women stems from a certain thinking. Deprioritizing maternal health, deprioritizing menstrual health stems from a certain thinking. And I think it is when that this thinking is going to be challenged, is when we are going to start taking, or other are taking steps in the right direction. And when I say household, I mean the whole households, because in India, our familial socio-political fabric is so closely woven that it is impossible to change one without changing the other. And I think Professor Vibhuti also spoke about the intra-family, power dynamics. They are so crucial and vital and so complicated in our societal structure that a change is required there. And it is in this area that I would like to share some of my observations, learnings, and experiences. I understand that a lot of people watching right now are young girls, women who will join workforce very soon, and soon they are going to become an important catalyst for the change or the push that is required. So the question really is, what can I do? As a person, I always believe in action. I also believe that we are here today because there were a lot of women, men, and transgenders before us who did what they could, who did ask the difficult questions, who did challenge the status quo. And therefore, I think it is our responsibility to at least try and make better what we have received today. Today, I am able to discharge my duties in corporate world without any stigma, because there were a lot of people who fought for those equal rights. So it's like a relay race. And I think we have to ensure we run our part with the best of our ability till we hand over the baton. Since I believe in action, there is an acronym which I thought we could do in our respective circles of influence. And the acronym is ACT. So if we can have the slide up and the first, letter there. So ACT starts with an A. Can we have the slide up?
Rahulji, will you be able to share the slides, please?
So till such time they are putting it up, let me talk about the A. The A, according to me, is acknowledge. One of the major attitudinal major attitudinal issues which I have observed time and again all around me is the sheer lack of acknowledgement for the the amount of caregiving work which is done by women. Um, be it issues related to children, providing food, managing household, caring for elderlies. To me, acknowledging is the first step, because till you are not going to acknowledge, the issue is not going to exist. And if it doesn't exist, you are not going to be able to solve it. There is a continuous dialogue which will need to happen within every family, within every community. To my mind, this is also the single biggest and the most difficult shift in narrative which is needed. Uh, I think the more inclusive it is with all genders, with all age groups, the more fruitful it will be. I think the age group of students is the right age group, because as you begin your journeys in corporate and families life, shifting perspective will have a ripple effect in the society. Look around you, look at your family, look at your parents, your mothers, mother-in-law, friends, colleagues, and ask. Talk about it. If you're seeing something uncomfortable, it's not necessarily to pick up a baton and drive a movement. Asking, bringing up these issues in open is going to have a lasting effect. You may meet resistance, you may meet, uh, sometimes uncomfortable conversations, but you may also find sometimes one person who is willing to listen. And even if each one of us takes this one step, imagine how far we can go. The other, letter of ACT, alphabet of ACT, C. To me, C stands for conversation. I think this acknowledgement can lead to conversations, because conversations lead to involvement, conversations can lead to change. Conversation with spouse, conversation with in-laws, conversations with peers at work, with supervisors in office. During my experience in my corporate career, I have often found by a lot of times that having these reassuring conversations with women, encouraging them, actually goes a long way in making them confident. Have the conversation with your organization, because unless an issue comes for discussion, how will the action be taken? I understand there could be concerns around it, but therefore it is all the more important to foster a culture of open conversation. I think here the senior women inside and outside the organization need to uh, uh, take this onus. I'll share my own example. Fortunately, I come from a group which has one of the very good policies of gender related issues. And when I was having my twins, I was not allowed to work. I wasn't allowed to travel, and uh, it was I would have to continue working from home. We are talking 5 years back when work from home was not that common. I created a conversation. Change happened, modifications were made. Post that, many such modification, many such cases have been made, accommodating different needs for women at different life stages. So I would encourage all of us to have conversations. A lot of time in intra family issues, uh, 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 having conversation with the spouse will at least get them on board with the agenda, and this is the first part to drive change. The last alphabet of ACT is transition. Eventually, the idea is to transform into an ecosystem with better gender friendly practices and mindsets. Uh, 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 we will have to move forward, assimilating what is good of the old and adapting to what's more suitable for the future. I would urge all of you watching to take your steps towards this transition. So, ACT, acknowledge the issue, drive conversation, drive it in your friends, drive it in your society. Society will become a community, and community will become a city. Uh, and very much in line with the theme of this International Women's Day, let us choose to challenge. The theme for this International Women's Day is choose to challenge. So let us all choose to challenge, and hopefully take the right step in the forward direction. Thank you once again for the opportunity to SNDT, and thank you for listening in. Namaskar. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jyoti. It was wonderful. Let's hope that all of us can act and can make the world a better place. Definitely. Thank you for sparing time, and I'm sure as you drove change in your own corporate context, we hope that we all can in different directions that we all are in. Is Veena ma'am in place? Can we kind of have Professor Veena Punacha, or there are issues with the connectivity? Can somebody, is Dr. Putul Satya around? Putul, can you just tell me if it is possible? And while that is happening, let me just share with you that the United Nations theme for 2021 is Women in Leadership, Achieving Equal Future in the COVID-19 World. What is very interesting is how social media is changing the agenda. So Choose to Challenge is a theme of Women's Day, but that's from a collision of corporate sectors group, which has a website, and it talks about Choose to Change, wherein the United Nations theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving Equal Future in the COVID-19 World. So that's very interesting how a discourse can be transformed by the kind of multiple players and multiple stakeholders, and as very clearly pointed out by all the three speakers before, how Professor Patel talked about how invisibility of women workers and women's spaces and women's work is happening in the COVID context. Manvinder Singh ji very clearly talked about why not to treat people and treat them with equality and treat them as strong, because they bring in so much to our society. And very clearly pointed out by Jyoti is to act in our own circles and our own spaces to kind of change the reality that we are in. We have a Professor Veena Punacha who was to join us, and she is in Kurg, and she had a connectivity challenge. She was there for the test run, but I suppose there is some issue happening with her connectivity. So I assume she's not able to join. So I would kind of like to, because I'm sure all the people who are watching this and who would be watching it in the future would very clearly recognize and understand that how critical it is to kind of treat all the human beings in the society, irrespective of the gender. So be it women, be it transgender, be it men, each of us have a role to play, and each of us bring in something for the kind of a happy and harmonious society. I would invite Shriyanka Chatterjee, who is the Media and Communication Officer of Press Information Bureau, Mumbai, to kind of share the closing aspects.
Namaskar. Thank you, Professor Meera ma'am. We have come to the end of an insightful session on gender and work in COVID times, a subject which is very apt to be taken up on a day which symbolizes the struggle of women over the years for a better life, a struggle which has happened all over the world for betterment of women, and not just for them, for the entire society. And COVID, we all know, has not just been a disease since last year, and it has not just been a pandemic, but it has been a major factor that has shaped the socioeconomic position of all countries and has deeply impacted the personal and professional lives of all people, and majorly the life of women folks around the world, because they are multitaskers. They juggle work both at they juggle a lot of work both at home front and professional front. Uh, while we say this, we should also remember that a lot more needs to be done for betterment of women, especially those underprivileged women who are yet to recognize and awaken the Nari Shakti, the dormant Nari Shakti within them. And I think it would be very apt to state what our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi has said today on International Women's Day. Honorable Prime Minister today in a tweet has said that the story of women's struggle for equality belongs to I'm sorry, I've actually misquoted. Sorry, everyone. Let me say that the Prime Minister has quoted that the Prime Minister has said in his tweet that, I'm quoting, saluting our indomitable Nari Shakti on International Women's Day, India takes pride in the many accomplishments of the women of our nation. It is our government's honor to be getting the opportunity to work towards furthering women empowerment across a wide range of sectors. Our Honorable Prime Minister has also said in another tweet that women are playing a leading role in India's quest to become Atmanirbhar. On International Women's Day, let us commit to encouraging entrepreneurship among women. Entrepreneurship and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat, as we all know, is a term that has emerged during COVID times. And while listening to the distinguished speakers, many a times, most of the speakers have thrown light on the government schemes of a lot of Government of India schemes, and all the schemes have women as major stakeholders. But I would still like to talk about a few schemes which have women as the beneficiaries. We all know that the Government of India has started Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme, Working Women's Hostel, One-Stop Sakhi Centers, PM Ujjwala Yojana, and so on. Now, I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers for this insightful session. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Shashikala Vanjari, ma'am, Honorable Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University. Ma'am has said that women are the focal point of any society. She must be encouraged to take up leadership roles. A very inspiring line for all the women out there. Ma'am said that maternal power must be seen as Mauli. And she has also spoken about some research. She has also said that it has been found that women employment is dropping faster than that of men in COVID times. That's a very disturbing fact, but we must take that into account in such debates. Next, I would like to thank Professor Vibhuti Patel, renowned scholar of gender and women's rights. Ma'am has thrown a light on the history of Women's Day, which started right back in the 19th century, in 1857, which started with a movement for improvement of women's work conditions, something that is still going on today. Thank you, ma'am, for taking us through all the problems which are faced by women. I would like to thank Sri Manvendra Singh Gohilji for familiarizing us, rather for educating us with the issues confronting transgender members of the society. Sir has thrown light on the fact that the transgenders had a major contribution in the first war of independence. Sir has said that Sir has spoken about the social evils that they face in society, how they are denied a right to live a life of dignity, and the torment and torture. It was also heartening to note that India is a country that has given that has given recognition to the rights of the transgender community, which has not been done in many other countries. Sir has also enlightened us about the initiatives taken by the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, which were done, the initiatives taken for the welfare of the transgender community. And Sir has also said that a lot needs to be done for this community in the sense of implementing the laws which have been enacted for the benefit of transgender community. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on the hardships faced by the transgender community. Ms. Jyoti Patankar, a corporate leader, has said that there is no infrastructure for a role reversal of men and women as bread earners and caregivers. And Madam has enlightened us about how domestic violence had increased in COVID time, a very disturbing fact, and how maternal health needs to be prioritized. Ma'am has also thrown light on the importance of unpaid caregiving. Thank you, ma'am, for familiarizing us with all these problems which are confronting women. And I would also like to, at the end, I would like to thank Professor Desai and Professor Sathe for steering this webinar in such a smooth manner. Professor Desai, without your contribution, this webinar would not have been possible. So thank you very much, ma'am. And with this, I'm coming to the end of this webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. And it's unfortunate that we could not get Professor Punacha because of some technical issue. But on behalf of SNDT Women's University, we all wish you a very happy times ahead. And as we said, it's not today, but for every day that we can have this day, and let this be a joy, peace, and happiness and harmony for everybody. Thank you for joining us.